Hello, this is Dodie from Deliberate Aging. Welcome to my podcast. Today I have the pleasure of being joined by Ellen Faller, a woman I met in an online Facebook group, and I was so intrigued by her post that I knew I had to reach out and try and get her on the show because her story is very inspiring. Ellen, welcome to the show. Why don't you start by telling us about yourself, and also, if you feel comfortable, tell us how old you are currently.
At the moment, I'm 76. Um, and I've been, I guess, lived in Connecticut all my life. I grew up in New Haven, a university town, and so there was always plenty of things going on and sports and so forth. So I've been active since I was a kid. And I worked at Yale for close to 40 years at the Peabody Museum of Natural History. I also had spent one summer when I was in college working in Scotland and learned Scottish country dancing. So when I came back to New Haven, I started doing Scottish country dancing and ended up teaching that, which is where I met my husband, Jack, of now 45 years. He was a chemistry professor at Yale. And we moved on. When we got married, we went to a Club Med in Guadeloupe in the Caribbean, where they had scuba diving, which we both did, but they also had windsurfing, which was a new sport, which got us totally hooked, and sort of wandered out of Scottish dancing and got into full-time windsurfing wherever we could. I ended up teaching windsurfing. And so sometimes I was working full-time during the week and then teaching windsurfing outside on the weekends. So I've been compelled to move, and then only recently discovered I had wrist arthritis, so I had to give up windsurfing. And that's when I wandered into ballroom dancing. And that has a lot of advantage over windsurfing because you don't need wind and you can do it any day of the week, etc. So that's sort of the history of my life. And my husband had learned ballroom dancing when he grew up in Kentucky. So it sort of interest that what made me walk into the studio near here and say, hey, maybe we should try this. And
So
that's kept us active.
interesting. So it sounds like even at the age of 76, you're not slowing down. You're willing to take on and learn new things.
Oh my God. I mean, that's what I love about ballroom dancing is the challenge. And fortunately they push me really hard. So I've learned, I don't know, like 23 new dances in the last year and tried to do to master them. Some of them I do better than others.
Interesting. Yeah, I think it's a cycle of learning how we,
Oh,
do
well,
it.
it was
Yeah.
the same thing in windsurfing. You're never going to master it. There's always going to be a different wind, different water, you're going to have your left foot on your right leg one day, and it's just not going to work. And the same thing with dancing
Hmm.
is that there's always that, oh, I got to learn that. I want to get that down.
So you're definitely not slowing down.
No, uh, sometimes some of my friends wish I would, but
Okay. So I know one of the things that you told me when we met in person was very intriguing, was how you had a near-death experience which
yes.
reshaped your view on life.
Yes, and one of your recent podcasts really touched on that. It's kind of like, um, if you're not going to, if you want to do something, do it now because you never know what's going to happen. I nearly drowned, and so I I was underwater thinking, gee, I'd like to get back to the air, but and when I did, you realize, oh, life is good. I got to take the opportunity to do more things, and don't wait for stuff. And also, you can be in beautiful health, but you never know when you might get hit by a bus or a meteorite might fall on you or
Hmm.
something.
Hmm.
So do it.
So prior to that life-altering event, would you say your mindset was different?
I was way more conservative. I mean, yes, I wanted to try things, I wanted to learn things, but you're getting older, and I'd also had my mother and an elderly aunt in a retirement community, which was also a very educational experience of these people who knew they were moving into this place, but probably not moving out. But their approach to being there and how they thought about winding down their life and being as active as possible, like, oh, yes, we have a pool. Oh, yes, I'm going to work in the store. I want to keep doing things. So that just put the two things into better focus. And so it's like now, if I get a chance to do something like last year at the Dancing Nationals in Orlando, they were like, "Do you want to go on the roller coaster?" And I'm thinking, "No way." Got there, and gosh, if I didn't get on the damn roller coaster. Um, Sort of the first and last time at 75. It's- but how else am I going to know what it's like?
Yeah, very true. So you touched on a good point there. You were talking about purpose of the people in the nursing home, and that is one
Yeah,
of the key indicators of longevity is having a purpose or a reason to get out of bed in the morning. So
yeah.
what would you say is your purpose right now?
Right now, it's I'm focusing on dancing and also cleaning out all the junk in the basement that I've saved over my whole life.
Hmm,
Two purposes
good.
that,
Okay.
that drive me.
Okay. So what do you do to stay healthy and to be able to continue this active lifestyle that you're living?
Well, I try to get decent sleep at night, and I guess I'm one of those weird people that I never liked sugar. I could not get through a lifesaver as a child. I would collect bags of candy at Halloween, and then so I was like, oh, good, we'll give it out next year. Uh, so, and I don't really like salt either. But so it hasn't been hard for me to deal with those two things. But I do like a glass of wine, and I try to keep that under control. I don't eat processed foods if I can possibly help it. And I listen to what my body says about what I am eating. There's certain things I eat that I know don't have good results.
So has that changed as you've gotten older? Like, for example, could you eat something in your 20s that now you can no longer eat?
Yes. Since I don't know why I suddenly can't eat tomatoes, but one day I had a couple of tomatoes off my tomato plants on the back porch and did not have a happy day. And then tried it again a couple days later. Nope. Ketchup. I just can't even do ketchup. And so just, I mean, really bothered me because I love tomatoes.
Hmm. So it sounds like you're very mindful of what your body, the signals your body is giving to you. So what would
Yeah.
you say has changed as you've gotten older, other than the not being able to eat tomatoes? What else?
Well, I do listen to things that body is having a hard time doing, or like the wrist arthritis. I tried to struggle through that, and then you realize that no, if you're going 25 miles an hour on the water, you don't need to suddenly let go because you have a shooting pain in your wrist. I also stretch a lot. I do gentle yoga. I also discovered recently that I have a herniated disc in my very lower back, but I have no pain. But it does has given me some neuropathy, so I in my feet. So I've tried to keep my feet in good shape. I just switched, been advertised a lot, the hike feet. That keeps my feet very mobile, flexible, etc. So if I can find something that makes me stay better. I also see a massage therapist regularly and work with a trainer, and so they're both my support team.
Okay. Now you mentioned you have tomatoes growing on the backyard. Are you also a gardener?
Well, now my husband is. We used to live in a condominium, and then for some reason, when we retired, we moved to a house, which is sort of backwards, but it was necessary. So we ended up living in a house with a lovely backyard, a nice exposure to sun, and I had my tomatoes on the back porch, and then all of a sudden I couldn't eat them. So he got into gardening big time. So now he has blueberry bushes and peas and asparagus and all kinds of things growing both in the yard and on the porch.
Hmm. Okay.
I do the weeding.
Well, that's still gardening, right? That gets you out there moving and, doing all these exercises that we might not consider
Yeah,
exercises, but that really are very good for our mobility, like squatting down to reach those weeds and whatever is really great for all the joints of
yes.
your legs.
And I ended up getting a Fitbit watch just as about the time that we were starting to go on bird watching trips. And you realized how much walking you were doing while doing bird watching.
Hmm.
And I remarked to the leader of one trip, oh, we've only done, something like 10,000 steps today. And he was like, what? we didn't do anything. I said, well, yes, but you're walking back and forth. You're walking over here to look at this bird, then you're taking 10 steps to the other side. And then we have to go around the corner on the road. And you don't realize how much walking you're doing. It's not like going for a hike, which is fine, but you're still getting a lot of exercise and you're holding those binoculars up.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. So bird watching is a hobby for you as well, which is not only
Yes.
mentally stimulating, but physically as
Oh,
well.
well, yeah, I mean, I worked in a natural history museum, but not with animals. So it was learning to start. Well, I know what a bird is. It's got wings and 2 feet and a beak, and it flies around. But then you begin to learn. Oh no, but there are sky birds, there are tree birds, there are bush birds, there are ground birds, there are seagulls. How to begin to tell things apart. So again, it was another mental challenge to begin to put that skill to use. And learning languages is another thing I've been trying to do.
Oh, okay. So what languages do you speak?
Well, in school I had learned French and German, but then the man that took over my job when I retired is Romanian, so he was teaching me some Romanian. And then we go on a river cruise in Europe, and the whole crew of the ship speaks Romanian, so they began teaching me more Romanian. My cancer doctor was Romanian, so you never know when these things are going to come in handy. I'm now working on learning Portuguese because we went to Brazil for one of our birding trips, and I liked Portuguese better than I liked Spanish. It was, for some reason, it suited me better. And now that I'm dancing, ballroom dancing, I'm learning some Ukrainian, which is a real challenge because it's not the same alphabet.
Is your teacher Ukrainian? Is that why?
Yes, he is. Yes,
I think you've told me Dennis is his name, right? And I know
yes, yes.
you were raving about him when we met.
Yeah, well, Dennis also is really good for keeping me moving because he's 28 and very athletic.
Hmm.
So once he found that I could move, we certainly move.
Hmm. Okay. So you mentioned something there. You have a cancer doctor who's Romanian.
Yes.
So how did that experience going through a cancer diagnosis and treatment?
Well, that was quite strange because I had absolutely no idea. I went to my gynecologist and she said, "Oh, I'm retiring at the end of the year. Let's just do all these tests. You've never had a problem, but I'll just retire better if I know you're happy." And then a week later, she called me and said, "Can I send you to see somebody else?" And that person was this cancer doctor who said, "Could you have surgery next week?" And you're like, "Oh my, yes, certainly, whatever you say." And that was kind of when you don't. One thing, if you know you're sick or you know you have a problem, it was another thing when it just comes like a lightning bolt out of the sky. Again, like almost drowning. And so, yes, I had the surgery, and he goes, "Oh, well, we've taken it all out. You're perfectly healthy. You'll heal fast, and you'll live to be 100." And I thought, "Oh, well, thank you. That sounds good. I'll
Hmm.
take that." And
So that
so,
must have been another one of those life-altering events that really changed
yes,
your
it
outlook.
does make you think, what was I doing that brought on the cancer? And he said, "No, no, we went through things, and it was, I think, as you kind of observed in Cyprus, stress." I had been dealing with the elderly aunt, the elderly mother, a family house in a nearby state that was a vacation house, but I was having to manage 10 sets of cousins, none of whom agreed on anything, and also had a lot to do at work. And then I retired, and it's sort of like your body goes, "Oh, we don't have to hold it together for her anymore. Now we can take a break." And your body goes, "Whoa." And he said, you just had a lot of accumulated stress. And he made a very nice analogy about, you've got the sentry guards at the border, and they're all wearing, they know to look out for the guys in the green uniforms and the red uniforms and keep them away from getting into your body and doing bad things. But when somebody shows up in a yellow uniform, that's not on the list. So it gets in, and nobody's paying any attention. It multiplies. And if your body is consumed with, stress, it's trying to deal with all kinds of other things, and it's not paying attention. And that was probably the way it was, because I've had nothing since then. And that was what, 13, 14 years ago.
Hmm. Well, that
So yes, do deal with stress. Do
hmm
what you can to deal with stress.
deal with stress, but also go to your annual checkups. It sounds like
Yes,
that's just taught, right?
exactly. And ask questions.
Yeah.
It's a little like, banging your head against the wall. It feels so good when you stop.
hmm
And stress feel you realize you were under a lot of stress when you stop being under a lot. But it's not something you can say to yourself, "Oh, don't feel stress anymore." It's not that simple.
Hmm. So you retired.
Yes.
What are the differences that you see from when you were working till now?
Well, now you wake up in the morning and go, what is today? Am I supposed to be someplace? You want a clock that has the days of the week on it rather than the hours of the day.
Hmm.
And I also sort of found that, well, working, okay, it's Monday to Friday, you get up, you go to work, and then you plan all your other things around that. Now it's kind of like, oh, I have an hour between dance class and something else. Let me get to the store quickly, but then I have to go home because I've got ice cream. So you have to plan differently. I
Hmm.
also find that I live right near Route 1, which goes from top of from Maine down to Florida, but it's very busy in the summer and because everybody wants to go to a beach. But all the places I go to, my dance class, my yoga class, my massage therapist, my train, they're all on Route 1. So you have to, it's like, I'm on Route 1. Am I going to massage or am I going to dance? Have I got the right shoes in the car? Really stressful things like this are now at the top of the list.
Right. So there's still stress. It's just a different form
It's a
of
different
stress.
kind of
Yeah.
stress. And if you just leave all of your shoes and all of your clothes in the car, then you don't have to worry and just
I'm
go to the
I'm
trunk and get
laughing
off.
because sometimes I feel like you know how we form these habits in our brain, and oftentimes I get in the car and I'm heading towards the dance studio, even though
Yeah,
I'm really going to the dentist or something, and I'll end up at the dance
exactly.
studio anyways.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I mean, how many times have I gotten in the car drives down the hill, gets on the highway, and I end up in the parking lot at work? It's
Yeah.
like, no, I don't work here anymore. I do volunteer at my old job, but only 1 day a week. So I had a job which, if you're the only person that did it for that long, it's very hard to do a brain dump onto the next person. So I asked him if I could volunteer, and he was ecstatic about that. So I'm on speed dial too. So when he
Hmm.
can't figure out why something is the way it is, it's like, Ellen, could you help me with this?
That's very
So
interesting because volunteering or giving back in some way to the community is also an indicator of longevity.
well, what I feel the best about that, okay, I'm not necessarily working at the soup kitchen or something like that, but the staff that work there, I mean, I know what it was like to be the staff at the Natural History Museum. They're limited employees, the number of employees. So if you need help moving something, you've got to borrow somebody from someplace else who has to stop doing what they're doing, but you owe them. You know all the things that would make a collection person's life much better. So I do donate money. I mean, for instance, they were going to have to start charging volunteers to pay for parking that
Hmm.
covered volunteer parking for the next year and a half until the parking garage gets rebuilt.
Hmm.
So because I know how useful the volunteers are and how much the staff counts on them.
Hmm.
And so it's what it will mean to the people that it helps
Right.
and make their daily work life better.
Hmm. Yeah, that's exactly what volunteering is all about.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you have such an active life. You're so inspirational, your story. What would you say is the most important advice to anybody listening to this that is older? And how should they stay healthy? How should they keep
Well,
going?
the use it or lose it phrase.
Hmm.
Um, uh, that if you can do something, please do, even if it's the chair yoga that they keep putting on the social media. Just do something, keep moving because
Hmm.
they freeze up. I mean, it's like not using your car for a month. The oil is going to get settled to the bottom, etc. Do something, walk, move, garden, but you have to know your own body and ask the questions for what works well for you.
Hmm.
So yeah, and we've had people come to the dance studio to lose weight. So I just encourage everybody to move in some way, just keep using it.
Yeah. Okay. So you've accomplished so many things and tried so many things. What is next?
Oh goodness. Uh, like during COVID, I tried platform tennis because you could do it outside in the winter. But that was not for me. I gave it up in favor of dancing. I'd like to stick with dancing for as long as I possibly can. It's fun. The younger kids, all age groups are there, etc. Um, um, I don't know. Sometimes things just pop up. I mean, like dancing was never on my radar, ever, until they put an ad saying, okay, we just opened this new studio right near you. Come in for a free lesson. And I thought, oh, well, what? Why not? I can't dance. I've never been able to dance, but I'll try this. So,
So you're open to new possibilities, and you're just
exactly.
kind of whatever appears. You're sounds
Well,
like you're pretty
if you don't,
adventurous and willing to
if you don't,
try.
if you don't try it, you're not going to know whether you're going to like it or not.
True. Yep.
It's just, again, that's sort of one of those things is you don't know. If you don't try dancing, how would I ever have known that I liked it so much? If
Right.
I'd just been put off by the fact that I never had, the idea of ballroom dancing, it just never occurred to me.
So you're very open to new ideas, which I think is
Yeah,
great.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Nice.
You
Okay.
got one door closes, another door opens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you're no longer windsurfing because of your wrist, right?
Yeah, which kills me because that's like dancing on water. That is every time I look at a windsurfing video, I can feel it. And
Mm-hmm.
even after, sort of having the surgery and everything, the guy says, "Do you have any questions?" Like, "Yeah, can I windsurf again?" And he's like, "Well, yeah, okay." And I was back on a board within 4 months. And I thought, well, I'll just start slowly. I'll take a big board and a little sail, and the next thing I know, my body, muscle memory, has kicked it up, and I'm flying over the surface of the water, and my brain is, "What are you doing? You're not supposed to be doing that." And
Okay. Interesting. All right. So any closing words of wisdom? Anything else I need to know about you that we haven't covered yet?
you just don't know. I also tried beading, stringing beads, etc. I've tried knitting. There are some things that you have to have the patience for. And I'm one of those people that if I look at the piece that I just made and I discover I made a bad stitch back here, I got to rip the whole thing out and start over again, which is aggravating. So it depends on your level of frustration.
Okay.
Yes, learn to deal with your frustration. Figure out what it is that's frustrating you and unravel that.
Hmm. All right. Well, it sounds like you are not slowing down. You're going to keep going. And maybe if we say get together again in, say, 6 months or a year from now, I'll learn something new about your latest, you know,
Yes,
trial at a different type of activity. And I'm interested to see
yes.
what that's going to be.
Well, yeah, I mean, you never know. So
Yeah,
you don't know what every day is going to bring until it gets there.
true. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much, Ellen. This was really great and very inspirational story. So thank you for all that information.
Well, thank you. I mean, your podcasts have been very helpful too. So,
Great. Well, I'm glad you're enjoying it.
yes. Okay.
Thanks.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. This is Dodie from Deliberate Aging. Until next time, be well, friends. This podcast is presented solely for informational and educational purposes only. Use of information from this podcast is at the user's own risk. It is not intended as a substitute for the advice of your physician or other qualified professional. We are not responsible for any losses, damages, or liabilities that may arise from use of this podcast.